Maya gestured toward a communication console on Korath's desk. Send a message to every criminal organization in your network. Tell them that human commerce is now under the protection of the Earth Defense Force. Any further attacks on human vessels, any extortion attempts, any violence against human civilians will result in the same fate that's about to befall you. And if I refuse? Maya's smile was colder than the space between stars. Then you lose your hand, and I send the message myself, using your severed fingers to operate the controls. Korath's resistance crumbled. With shaking fingers, he activated the communication system and sent the message exactly as Maya had dictated. His voice carried the absolute conviction of someone who had seen his own mortality and found it wanting. Excellent, Maya said when the transmission was complete. Now for the other part of our business arrangement. The medical cutter activated with its familiar high-pitched whine. Korath's screams echoed through the office as Maya performed the same amputation he had ordered on her with the same professional precision. When it was finished, she cauterized the wound and applied a field dressing with the efficiency of someone who had received extensive medical training. There, Maya said, studying her work. Now we're even, functionally speaking. Korath clutched his stump against his chest, tears streaming down his face. You're insane. The Galactic Council will do exactly nothing, Maya interrupted. Because you're a criminal operating outside their jurisdiction, and I'm a duly authorized Earth Defense Force operative conducting a legitimate counterterrorism operation. Maya moved to Korath's communication console and activated the virus she had planted throughout his network. Across the Outer Rim, criminal communication systems began broadcasting detailed evidence of their operations to Galactic Council law enforcement agencies. Your organization is finished, Maya continued. Your allies are about to find themselves under investigation by every legitimate government in the galaxy. Your assets are being seized by authorities who now have complete records of your activities. Korath stared at his ruined empire in numb shock. Why? Why not just kill me and be done with it? Maya sheathed her sword and moved toward the office doors. Because death would make you a martyr to other criminals. Living with the consequences of your actions makes you an example. As the door slid open, Maya paused to deliver her final message. Pass the word to anyone who might be interested. Humans aren't weak. We're not easy prey. We're not victims waiting to be exploited. We're the species that fought our way to the stars despite having no natural weapons, no armor, no inherent advantages except the ability to adapt and the determination to never give up. She looked back at Korath one last time. Attack our people again, and I'll come back. Next time, I won't be nearly so merciful. Maya left Crimson Station the same way she had arrived, quietly, efficiently, and with absolute purpose. Behind her, Korath's criminal empire collapsed like a house of cards, its foundations destroyed by a single human who had refused to accept that might made right. The Persistence jumped to hyperspace carrying cargo holds full of recovered stolen goods that would finally reach their intended destinations. Medical supplies found their way to plague-stricken colonies. Refugee transports received the escort protection they had paid for. Merchant vessels could once again travel the Outer Rim trade routes without fear of systematic extortion. In the weeks that followed, word spread throughout the galaxy's criminal underworld about what had happened to Vex Korath and his organization. The story grew with each telling, but the core message remained consistent. Humans were no longer easy prey. Maya Chen returned to her life as an independent engineer, but the galaxy had changed around her. Human merchants found themselves treated with new respect. Criminal organizations gave human vessels wide berths. The systematic exploitation that had characterized human commerce in the Outer Rim became a thing of the past. She kept the ancient sword, mounted in a place of honor in her ship's cabin. Not as a trophy, but as a reminder. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not through natural advantages, but through determination, adaptability, and the absolute refusal to accept injustice. The galaxy was a dangerous place, full of predators who preyed upon the weak. But humanity was no longer weak. They were forged in fire and steel, tempered by adversity, and absolutely unstoppable when defending those who could not defend themselves. Maya Chen had proven that sometimes the old ways were indeed the most effective ways, and the galaxy would remember that lesson for a very long time to come. Crimson Station was a place where law went to die, a haven for smugglers, slavers, and alien crime lords who thought humans were just another weak species to exploit. They made a mistake. They cut off her hand to send a message. But what they created was something far worse than they imagined, because Maya Chen wasn't just an engineer, she was forged in the fires of Earth's deadliest wars, and now, with steel in her veins and a sword in her hand, she's coming back. Not for justice, not for peace, but for war, and this time, there will be no mercy. The engineer's mistake. Crimson Station floated in the void like a metal tumor, its red lights pulsing against the star-drunk darkness of the outer rim. Maya Chen's modified freighter, the Persistence, docked with a mechanical thunk that echoed through the station's hull. She powered down her engines and checked her chronometer. 3 days until her quantum drive would fail completely, leaving her stranded in dead space with a cargo hold full of medical supplies bound for the colony worlds. Maya sealed her environmental suit and stepped through the airlock into Crimson Station's main corridor. The air hit her immediately, thick with recycled atmosphere, alien pheromones, and the metallic tang of cheap life support systems. Fluorescent strips cast sickly light over beings from a dozen different worlds, all conducting the kind of business that thrived in places where the Galactic Council's authority grew thin. She had been to stations like this before. During her time with the Earth Defense Force, Maya had learned that the galaxy's dark corners were where you found both the worst criminals and the most desperate people just trying to survive. Today, she hoped she would only encounter the latter. The engineering district lay 3 levels down, accessible through a maze of corridors that seemed designed to confuse newcomers. Maya navigated by memory and instinct, her hand resting casually near the plasma cutter on her tool belt. Not a weapon officially, but it could serve if needed. She passed a group of Vorthan traders arguing over shipping manifests, their scaled faces twisted in commercial fury. A pair of insectoid clicks clicked rapidly to each other in their native language, antennae twitching with what might have been amusement or aggression. The quantum crystal dealer's shop occupied a corner space marked only by a flickering hologram of atomic structures. Maya pushed through the door, triggering a chime that sounded like breaking glass. Behind the counter stood a being she didn't recognize. Humanoid, but covered in what looked like living metal that shifted and flowed across its skin. "Looking for grade 7 quantum crystals," Maya said, placing her credit chip on the counter. "Need enough to power a long-range drive for at least 2 jumps. The metallic being's head tilted, studying her with eyes like liquid mercury. "Human," it observed, voice carrying electronic undertones. "Grade 7 crystals are expensive, very expensive for humans." Maya felt the familiar twist in her stomach that came with discrimination based on species. Throughout human space, they were considered a young race, barely worthy of respect from species that had been traveling between stars when humanity was still discovering fire. But she had learned patience during her military service. "I have credits," she said simply. "Standard galactic rate plus 10% for quick delivery." "Standard rate?" The being's laughter sounded like metal scraping against metal. No, human rate is different, much different." Before Maya could respond, the shop's rear door slid open. A massive figure filled the doorway, easily 3 meters tall, with 4 arms and skin that looked like living stone. A Brutok, Maya realized, recognizing the species from her xenobiology training. Behind the Brutok came a slender figure in expensive robes, moving with the fluid grace of a predator. "Zephyr," the robed figure said to the metal-skinned dealer, "is there a problem here?" Maya turned to face the newcomer and immediately cataloged details from her military training. Zeridian, male, approximately middle-aged by the silver streaks in his cranial ridges. Expensive clothing suggested wealth and status. The way he carried himself indicated someone accustomed to being obeyed. The plasma pistol at his hip was military grade and well-maintained. "No problem, Vex Korath," Zephyr replied, inclining his metallic head respectfully. "Just explaining pricing to the human." Vex Korath studied Maya with predatory interest. "A human? How refreshing. It's been some time since we've had visitors from the Sol system." His voice carried the cultured accent of someone who had received an expensive education. "I am Vex Korath. I manage certain business interests on this station." Maya had encountered enough criminals during her service to recognize euphemism when she heard it. Business interests meant protection rackets, smuggling operations, and worse. But she needed those crystals. "Maya Chen," she replied evenly. "I just need to buy some crystals and be on my way." Of course, Korath said, moving closer. "But you see, Miss Chen, commerce on Crimson Station operates under certain protocols. Humans, being relatively new to interstellar trade, sometimes require additional services, security, insurance, guidance through our complex local regulations. I can handle my own security, Maya said. Korath's laugh was like silk over steel. Can you? Thane, what do you think? The Brutok enforcer stepped forward, and Maya had to crane her neck to meet his gaze. His lower pair of arms ended in hands that could crush a human skull without effort. His upper arms bore weapons that looked custom-made for intimidation. I think humans are soft, Thane rumbled, his voice like grinding stone. Soft and weak and easy to break. Maya's training kicked in automatically. She cataloged exits, weapons, cover options, and potential improvised tools. The engineering section of her mind noted that Brutoks were strong but slow, with vulnerable points at the joints and a blind spot directly behind their massive heads. But she was one human against at least 3 hostile aliens in their territory. I'm willing to pay fair market rates, she said, keeping her voice steady. Nothing more. Fair market rates, Korath mused, circling her slowly. Such a relative concept. What's fair to a human might seem inadequate to other species. After all, humans are, how shall I put this delicately, not known for their commercial acumen. Maya's jaw tightened. We're known for keeping our word and honoring contracts. How quaint, Korath said. Honor. Such an expensive luxury in a place like this. Thane, perhaps you could help Miss Chen understand the realities of conducting business on Crimson Station. The Brutok moved faster than Maya expected. One massive hand clamped down on her right wrist while another gripped her shoulder, holding her immobile. Maya's combat training screamed for her to act, but she was outmassed by at least 100 kilograms and surrounded by hostiles. You see, Korath continued conversationally, humans have a reputation for being stubborn. You cling to your principles even when practicality suggests flexibility. It's almost admirable, in a primitive sort of way. Maya tested Thane's grip and found it like iron. What do you want? Simple. The quantum crystals you need cost 50,000 credits, plus a 15,000 credit station tax, plus 5,000 for security services. Korath smiled, revealing teeth that had been sharpened to points. 70,000 total. That's robbery, Maya said. The crystals are worth 8,000 maximum. To you, perhaps. But you're not the one setting prices, are you? Maya looked around the shop, noting the positions of the others. Zephyr had moved to block the front door. Thane held her fast. Korath stood just out of striking range, even if she could break free. I don't have 70,000 credits, she said finally. Oh, but you do, Korath said, pulling out a scanner and pointing it at her. Your ship alone is worth at least 100,000. Your cargo hold contains medical supplies bound for the Kepler colonies, very valuable to the right buyers. You could afford our prices if you were willing to be flexible. Maya's blood ran cold. The medical supplies were desperately needed antibiotics and surgical equipment for a plague outbreak on Kepler 7. Thousands of lives depended on that cargo reaching its destination. Those supplies are for sick children, she said. How touching, Korath replied. But business is business, surely you understand. Maya looked into his cold, calculating eyes and realized she was dealing with something worse than a simple criminal. This being would let children die for profit and sleep soundly afterward. I'll pay the 8,000 for the crystals, she said firmly. Nothing more. Korath sighed theatrically. I had hoped we could resolve this amicably. Thane, I think Miss Chen needs a more concrete demonstration of how business works on Crimson Station. The Brutok's grip tightened, and Maya heard her bones creak under the pressure. Which hand do you use for engineering work? Thane asked, his voice carrying professional interest. Maya's training finally overcame her diplomatic instincts. She drove her left elbow back into Thane's midsection, twisted in his grip, and managed to break partially free. But before she could reach the plasma cutter on her belt, Thane's upper arms caught her again. Spirited, Korath observed. I admire that. Thane, the right hand, I think. Leave the fingers. She'll need those to transfer her cargo manifest to us. What happened next would haunt Maya's nightmares for weeks to come. Thane pressed her right hand flat against Zephyr's metal counter. The living metal being produced a molecular cutter from beneath the surface, a device designed for precision work on delicate electronics. In Thane's massive grip, it became an instrument of torture. Wait, Maya said, panic finally creeping into her voice. You can't. Oh, but I can, Korath said softly. You see, Miss Chen, this is what happens to humans who forget their place in the galaxy. Consider this an educational experience. The molecular cutter activated with a high-pitched whine. Maya screamed as the beam severed her right hand cleanly at the wrist. The cauterization was instant and complete, leaving her staring at a perfectly sealed stump where her dominant hand had been seconds before. Thane released her, and Maya collapsed to her knees, cradling the injured limb against her chest. Through the haze of pain and shock, she heard Korath speaking as if from a great distance. "The hand will be waiting for you when you return with our payment," he said pleasantly. "Zephyr can keep it fresh in stasis. 70,000 credits, Miss Chen, plus a 20,000 credit medical fee for the inconvenience." Maya struggled to her feet, her vision swimming. You can't." "I can and I have," Korath replied. "This is how business works in the real galaxy, away from your protected human space. The strong take what they want, the weak pay the price." Maya stumbled toward the door, leaving droplets of blood despite the cauterization. At the threshold, she turned back to face Korath. Even through the pain and shock, her voice carried absolute conviction. "I'll be back," she said quietly. Korath laughed, a sound like breaking crystal. "With what? Human law enforcement? The Galactic Council? They have no authority here, and everyone knows humans are too soft for real violence." Maya met his gaze with eyes that suddenly seemed older, harder. "I'll be back," she repeated, and something in her tone made even Thane shift uncomfortably. "Run along, little human," Korath said. "Try not to bleed on my station." Maya left the shop, navigating the corridors through sheer force of will. Behind her, she could hear the aliens laughing. They thought they had broken her, taught her a lesson about humanity's place in the galactic order. They had no idea what they had actually done. As Maya sealed herself in her ship's medical bay and began emergency treatment, she activated a secure communication channel she had not used in 3 years. The response came within minutes, a single word from command: "Acknowledged." The aliens of Crimson Station had made a fundamental error. They had mistaken an engineer for a helpless victim. What they had actually found was a decorated veteran of the Earth Defense Force's most elite unit, someone who had earned her place among the stars with blood and determination. Maya Chen was no longer just seeking quantum crystals. She was going home to collect some very specific equipment, and when she returned to Crimson Station, she would teach Vex Korath and his associates why humanity had earned its reputation as the galaxy's most dangerous species. The Persistence undocked and disappeared into hyperspace, carrying with it a promise that would soon reshape the criminal underworld of the Outer Rim. Behind her, Crimson Station pulsed with its red lights, unaware that its days of preying on the innocent were numbered. War was coming to the Outer Rim, and it would arrive wearing a human face. Forged in fire and steel, New Geneva Medical Station orbited Saturn like a chrome needle against the gas giant's swirling storms. Maya Chen's ship, the Persistence, docked with the kind of precision that spoke of military training and years of experience. 3 weeks had passed since Crimson Station, 3 weeks of pain medication and single-handed navigation through hyperspace, following coordinates she had memorized but hoped never to use. The medical bay's doors slid open with a whisper, revealing Dr. Sarah Voss, tall, silver-haired, with the steady hands of someone who had rebuilt bodies shattered by war. Her eyes immediately focused on Maya's bandaged stump. "Maya Chen," Dr. Voss said, consulting a holographic medical chart. "Former Lieutenant, Earth Defense Force Recon Division. Discharged 3 years ago with full honors." She looked up, and Maya saw recognition in her expression. "I remember you. Titan Station." Maya nodded grimly. Titan Station had been where everything changed, where she had learned that sometimes the only way to protect innocent lives was to take others. "Dr. Voss, I need to speak with Commander Torres." "He's waiting for you in Surgical Bay 7, Dr. Voss replied. "But first, let me examine that injury. I assume you didn't come here just for medical care." Maya followed the doctor through corridors lined with the most advanced medical equipment humanity could produce. New Geneva served as both a cutting-edge research facility and a place where Earth's special operations personnel came when they needed to be rebuilt after missions that officially never happened. Surgical Bay 7 was twice the size of a normal operating theater, equipped with cybernetic interfaces and regeneration pods that few civilians ever saw. Commander Torres stood with his back to the entrance, studying holographic displays of anatomical schematics. When he turned, Maya saw that time had added new scars to his weathered face, but his eyes remained the same, sharp, calculating, and absolutely ruthless when necessary. "Maya," Torres said, his voice carrying the warmth of genuine affection, "I heard about what happened. I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry, Commander," Maya replied, raising her stump. "Be useful. I need full cybernetic replacement, military grade, and I need access to the archives." Torres studied her for a long moment. "The archives are classified. You're a civilian now." "Am I?" Maya met his gaze steadily. "Because last I checked, my discharge papers included a clause about reactivation in cases of extreme necessity. And you think this qualifies?" Maya pulled up a holographic display from her personal datapad showing images and data from Crimson Station. Vex Korath runs protection rackets that affect 15 systems. His operation controls trade routes used by medical supply ships, refugee transports, and colony supply runs. Thane, his enforcer, has killed at least 30 sentients in the past year, mostly humans who refuse to pay extortion fees. Torres studied the data, his expression growing darker. This is extensive intelligence gathering for someone who was supposedly just buying crystals. I had time to research during the trip home, Maya said. Commander, they're not just criminals, they're systematic predators targeting human commerce specifically. They think we're weak, easy prey, and they're teaching other criminal organizations to follow their model. Dr. Voss had been listening silently. Now she stepped forward, pulling up her own set of holographic displays. Maya, what you're describing would require significant cybernetic enhancement. Not just replacement of function, but improvement beyond baseline human capability. The process is intense. I can handle intense, Maya said. Can you? Torres moved closer, his voice dropping to the tone he had used during classified briefings. Because what you're talking about isn't just getting a new hand, it's crossing a line. Once you go full military cyborg, there's no going back to being just an engineer. Maya was quiet for several seconds, remembering the sound of Korath's laughter, the casual way Thane had severed her hand, the knowledge that her medical supplies had been sold on the black market while children died on Kepler 7. Good, she said finally. I don't want to go back. Torres and Dr. Voss exchanged glances. Maya recognized the look. It was the same expression they had worn during the war when discussing operations that would fundamentally change the people who carried them out. Full reactivation, Torres said finally. Lieutenant Maya Chen, you are hereby recalled to active duty under Special Operations Protocol 7. Dr. Voss, give her everything she needs. The cybernetic integration process took 6 days. Maya spent the first 3 unconscious while nanoscale machines rewired her nervous system to interface with quantum processors and synthetic muscle fibers. When she finally woke, her right arm ended in something that looked like a work of art, polished titanium and carbon fiber arranged in perfect mimicry of human anatomy, but stronger, faster, and infinitely more precise than flesh and bone. Dr. Voss ran her through the calibration process, teaching her to control the new limb's enhanced capabilities. The cybernetic hand could exert enough pressure to crush steel, move with microsecond precision, interface directly with most computer systems, and deploy a variety of integrated tools. The neural interface is completely intuitive, Dr. Voss explained as Maya practiced picking up objects of varying fragility. Your brain will adapt to the new capabilities within days. But Maya, this isn't just a replacement hand, it's a weapon system. Maya flexed her new fingers, watching synthetic tendons move beneath translucent panels. Good. I'll need weapons for what comes next. About that, Torres said, entering the medical bay with a sealed case. I've been thinking about your mission parameters. Korath's operation is too large for a single operative to dismantle through conventional means. Who said anything about conventional means? Maya asked. Torres smiled grimly and opened the case. Inside, nestled in protective foam, lay a sword. Not a plasma blade or vibro weapon, but an actual piece of forged steel, 30 inches of folded carbon steel with a grip wrapped in traditional leather. The blade gleamed with the subtle patterns of Damascus steel, and the craftsmanship was unmistakably human. This belonged to Colonel Harrison, Torres said, referring to Maya's former unit commander. He always said that sometimes the old ways are the most effective ways. Maya lifted the sword with her new cybernetic hand, and the weapon's balance was perfect. The integrated systems in her arm automatically calculated optimal strike angles, defensive positions, and movement patterns. Ancient martial arts merged with quantum processing power in her mind. Why a sword? She asked, though part of her already understood. Because aliens expect humans to fight like aliens, Torres replied. Energy weapons, projectile weapons, orbital bombardment. They don't expect us to fight like our ancestors did, up close, personal, and absolutely terrifying. Over the following weeks, Maya threw herself into training with an intensity that impressed even the station's veteran instructors. She spent hours in the combat simulators, learning to integrate her cybernetic enhancements with traditional swordsmanship. The blade became an extension of her will, guided by computer-assisted reflexes but driven by very human determination. Between training sessions, she studied. The archives contained detailed information about every major criminal organization in the Outer Rim, including psychological profiles of their leaders. She learned that Zeridians like Korath were proud, hierarchical beings who respected strength and despised weakness. Brutox like Thane were tribal creatures who followed whoever proved themselves the superior warrior. Most importantly, she learned about the stations and ships that comprised Korath's criminal empire. Security systems, structural weaknesses, personnel rosters, supply schedules, everything she would need to dismantle his operation piece by piece. Dr. Voss monitored her progress with growing concern. Maya, your psychological evaluation shows concerning levels of focused aggression. You're exhibiting symptoms consistent with post-traumatic stress disorder combined with preparation for extreme violence. Good, Maya replied, practicing blade forms in the station's gymnasium. Extreme violence is exactly what the situation requires. But you're not just planning to eliminate threats, Dr. Voss continued. You're planning to send a message. That's a different kind of mission with different psychological costs. Maya paused her practice routine, the sword held perfectly still in her cybernetic grip. Doctor, do you know how many humans have died because of Korath's operations? Not just the ones his enforcers have killed directly, but the colony ships that couldn't afford his extortion fees and died in dead space. The medical supplies that never reached plague victims. The refugee transports that paid everything they had and still got hijacked. Dr. Voss was quiet, studying Maya's expression. It's not about revenge, Maya continued. It's about justice. And yes, it's about sending a message to every other criminal organization in the galaxy that thinks humans are easy prey. Commander Torres appeared in the gymnasium doorway. Your ship is ready. We've installed military-grade shields, enhanced engines, and a few other modifications that aren't on any official specifications. Your cover identity is solid. Independent salvage operator with authorization to work the outer rim. Maya sheathed the sword across her back, the motion as natural as breathing. What about backup? You are the backup, Torres replied. Earth Command has decided that large-scale military intervention would destabilize the entire outer rim. Better to send one operative who can work quietly and efficiently. Maya smiled, but there was no warmth in the expression. Quietly and efficiently. That's not quite what I had in mind. I know, Torres said. That's why you're perfect for this mission. Maya, you have full operational discretion. Handle this however you see fit. As Maya prepared to leave New Geneva, Dr. Voss made one final attempt to reach her humanity. Remember who you were before all this. Remember the engineer who just wanted to deliver medical supplies to sick children? Maya looked at her cybernetic hand, flexing fingers that could crush steel or perform microsurgery with equal precision. I remember her. She was naive. She thought the galaxy was a place where reason and compassion mattered. She was wrong. And who are you now? Maya met the doctor's eyes, and Dr. Voss saw something that made her take an involuntary step backward. I'm the solution to the problem. The Persistence undocked from New Geneva with its holds filled with salvage equipment and its computer systems loaded with enough firepower to reduce a small station to component atoms. But Maya's most dangerous weapon remained the ancient steel blade across her back and the absolute certainty that she would use it. Crimson Station waited in the void, its red lights pulsing with false security. Vex Korath had no idea that his casual act of cruelty had awakened something far more dangerous than a vengeful engineer. He had created an instrument of justice, forged in the fires of human determination and tempered with the steel of absolute purpose. Maya Chen was coming home, and she was bringing the full weight of human evolution with her. 10,000 years of warfare refined into a single, unstoppable force. The galaxy was about to learn why humanity had earned its place among the stars, and the lesson would be carved in flesh and blood. The hunt was about to begin. No mercy for the wicked Crimson Station hung in space exactly as Maya remembered it, its red lights pulsing against the darkness like a diseased heartbeat. But Maya Chen was no longer the desperate engineer who had fled bleeding into the void 6 weeks ago. The woman who piloted the Persistence toward the station's docking bay was something else entirely, a fusion of human determination and advanced technology that would have been incomprehensible to her former self. Her cybernetic hand rested on the ship's controls with perfect steadiness as she transmitted her docking request using the identity of Marcus Vale, independent salvage operator. The station's traffic control responded with board efficiency, assigning her a berth in the outer ring where transient merchants conducted their business. Maya studied the station's layout through her ship's enhanced sensors. 6 months of intelligence gathering had revealed every detail of Korath's operation. The Zeridian crime lord maintained his headquarters in the station's central hub, protected by layers of security and surrounded by loyal enforcers. His operation had grown since Maya's last visit, 3 more ships, twice as many personnel, and contracts with criminal organizations in 7 systems. Perfect. The bigger they were, the louder they fell. Maya sealed her environmental suit and checked her equipment one final time. The ancient sword hung across her back, its weight as familiar as breathing. Her cybernetic arm interfaced seamlessly with the ship's systems, downloading structural plans, security protocols, and personnel files. Everything she needed for the systematic dismantling of Vex Karath's criminal empire. The station's atmosphere hit her as she stepped through the airlock, the same mixture of recycled air and alien pheromones she remembered. But this time, Maya wasn't here to negotiate. She was here to collect a debt. The first phase of her plan required reconnaissance. Maya made her way through the station's corridors, her enhanced senses cataloging security cameras, guard positions, and escape routes. Her appearance had changed enough that casual observation wouldn't identify her immediately. Military conditioning had hardened her features, and the cybernetic arm was concealed beneath a synthetic skin covering that matched her natural coloring perfectly. Korath's operation had expanded into 3 separate districts of the station. The central hub contained his personal offices and primary security forces. The eastern district housed his data processing center and communications array. The western district served as storage for stolen goods and temporary holding for prisoners who couldn't immediately pay his extortion fees. Maya started with the western district. The storage facility was guarded by 2 Vorthon mercenaries who viewed their assignment as tedious routine. They were playing some kind of gambling game when Maya approached, her footsteps deliberately audible to avoid appearing threatening. "Hey," one of the guards called out in heavily accented standard. "This area restricted. You lost?" Maya smiled pleasantly. "Actually, I'm exactly where I need to be." Her cybernetic hand moved faster than alien reflexes could track. The first guard dropped unconscious before he could draw his weapon. The second managed to activate an alarm before Maya's follow-up strike sent him into the same dreamless sleep. The alarm's wailing brought reinforcements within minutes. 4 more guards, including a Brutok enforcer who looked disturbingly similar to Thane. They found Maya waiting patiently in the corridor, hands visible and apparently unarmed. "Human female," the Brutok rumbled. "You are under arrest for assault on station security personnel." "I don't think so," Maya replied calmly. "But I appreciate the offer." The fight lasted less than 30 seconds. Maya moved with the fluid precision of someone who had trained for thousands of hours, her cybernetic enhancements allowing her to strike with superhuman speed and accuracy. The Brutok went down hard when Maya's reinforced fist connected with a nerve cluster at the base of his skull. The other guards never had a chance. Maya dragged the unconscious aliens into the storage facility and sealed the door. Inside, she found exactly what she had expected: stolen cargo from a dozen different merchant ships, including medical supplies that should have reached the colony worlds weeks ago. She uploaded the inventory to her personal database and planted the first of several data mining devices throughout Korath's operation. Phase 1 complete. Time for Phase 2. The Eastern District's communications center was more heavily defended, but Maya had anticipated that. She approached through the station's maintenance tunnels, using schematics downloaded from the Galactic construction database. The center's security focused on conventional intrusion routes. They weren't prepared for someone who could interface directly with their own systems. Maya's cybernetic hand made contact with an access panel, and quantum processors went to work dismantling the center's defenses from within. Firewalls fell like paper before technology that was decades ahead of anything the criminals possessed. Within minutes, Maya had complete access to Korath's communication networks. The data she discovered was staggering. Korath's operation wasn't just a local criminal enterprise. It was part of a galaxy-spanning conspiracy to systematically target human commerce. Dozens of crime lords across the Outer Rim were coordinating their efforts, sharing intelligence about human shipping routes, and dividing territory like pieces of a massive pie. Maya copied everything and planted a virus that would lie dormant until she chose to activate it. When the time came, every criminal organization in the network would find their communications compromised and their secrets laid bare to Galactic Council authorities. But first, she had a more personal debt to collect. The central hub buzzed with activity as Maya made her approach. Word of the incidents in the outer districts had reached Korath's inner circle, and security was heightened throughout his territory. Guards moved in pairs, weapons openly displayed, and surveillance drones patrolled the corridors with mechanical precision. Maya walked through it all like a ghost, her military training allowing her to move through blind spots and timing gaps that civilian criminals couldn't even perceive. When stealth failed, her cybernetic enhancements made short work of any opposition. Guards found themselves unconscious before they could raise alarms, and security drones simply shut down when Maya's hand interfaced with their control circuits. The path to Korath's personal office was lined with the bodies of his criminal empire, not dead, but thoroughly defeated and stripped of their weapons. Maya had made a deliberate choice to avoid killing whenever possible. Dead criminals became martyrs to their organizations. Living criminals who had been effortlessly defeated became cautionary tales. The office doors were reinforced durasteel, equipped with both electronic locks and physical barriers designed to withstand military-grade assault. Maya studied them for exactly 3 seconds before her cybernetic hand began interfacing with the locking mechanism. Advanced encryption protocols unraveled like cheap rope before quantum processing power, and the massive doors slid open with a whisper. Vex Korath sat behind an expensive desk made from genuine earth oak, probably stolen from some merchant vessel. He looked exactly as Maya remembered, elegant, predatory, and absolutely certain of his own superiority. Thane stood beside him, all 4 arms crossed, his stone-like features twisted into what might have been concern. Well, well, Korath said, rising smoothly from his chair. Marcus Vale, according to the docking manifest. But I think we both know that's not your real name, don't we? Maya stepped into the office, allowing the doors to seal behind her. Hello, Vex. I told you I'd be back. Recognition flickered across Korath's features, followed immediately by disbelief. Impossible. You're dead. Thane saw you bleeding out in Zephyr's shop. I got better, Maya said, raising her cybernetic hand and allowing the synthetic skin to retract, revealing the polished titanium and carbon fiber beneath. Thanks for asking. Thane moved with surprising speed for his size, reaching for the massive warhammer at his side. Maya's enhanced reflexes made his movement seem almost comically slow. She drew the ancient sword from her back in a single fluid motion, the steel gleaming under the office's expensive lighting. A sword? Korath laughed, though the sound carried less confidence than before. How wonderfully primitive. Thane, show our guest what modern weapons can do. The Brutok enforcer activated his warhammer, energy fields crackling along its massive head. He swung with enough force to pulverize a starship's hull plating. Maya simply wasn't there when the blow landed, having moved with cybernetically enhanced speed to position herself at Thane's side. The ancient sword sliced through the Brutok's weapon like it was made of paper, then continued in an arc that opened a shallow cut across his chest. Thane staggered backward, staring in disbelief at his severed hammer. Impossible, he rumbled. Primitive weapons cannot defeat modern technology. You're right, Maya said, advancing with predatory grace. Primitive weapons can't, but this isn't a primitive weapon wielded by a primitive warrior. This is 10,000 years of human combat evolution guided by quantum processing and enhanced by cybernetic precision. Maya's next strike targeted the nerve clusters she had studied in Brutok anatomy files. The sword's edge found each point with surgical accuracy, and Thane collapsed like a felled tree, paralyzed but alive. Korath backed toward his office's emergency exit, fumbling for the plasma pistol at his hip. Stay back, I'm warning you. With what? Maya asked, continuing her advance. The same weapon you used to threaten other innocent merchants? The same authority you claimed when you had Thane cut off my hand? That was business, Korath snarled, finally drawing his weapon. Nothing personal, just the cost of operating in the real galaxy. Maya stopped just outside the plasma pistol's effective range. You're right, it was business, and now I'm here to balance the books. Korath fired, and Maya moved. The plasma bolt seared the air where she had been standing, but Maya was already inside his guard, the sword's point resting against his throat. One small movement would open his carotid artery and end his life in seconds. Please, Korath whispered, all his arrogance evaporating. I'll give you anything. Credits, ships, territory. Name your price. Maya's eyes were cold as vacuum. I want my hand back. Your hand? But it's been weeks. The tissue would have degraded. Even our stasis systems couldn't. I want my hand back. Understanding dawned in Korath's eyes, followed immediately by terror. You can't mean. I can and I do, Maya said softly. You taught me that the strong take what they want and the weak pay the price. Well, Vex Korath, today you're the weak one. What happened next was swift and surgical. Maya's cybernetic hand pinned Korath's left arm to his expensive desk while her organic hand drew a medical cutter from her belt, the same type of device Thane had used on her 6 weeks ago. Wait, Korath screamed. This is barbaric. Humans don't do things like this. Maya paused, meeting his gaze with absolute certainty. You're wrong about that. Humans do exactly things like this when you threaten the innocent people we've sworn to protect. The difference is, we give you a choice. What choice?